Mr. Kip Sorensen, what's up, man? Good to see you after the weekend. It's good to be back. It's always nice to start my week off with you, Kip.
Well, that's why I'm here, just to make you feel good about yourself. You look good and handsome, by the way, as well.
Okay. I mean, thank you.
That's the telltale sign that everyone's like, I know he's lying now.
That's right. That's right. I see you got the good stuff today, the go instead of the bang.
Yeah. I just need my stuff.
Did we talk about your favorite flavor?
Yeah, it's sniper apple still.
Yeah, I think I've officially moved over to orange, but I have some inside knowledge about some new flavors coming out that I'm not sure I can talk about, but
stay tuned.
Just a little teaser for you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, here we are, Mr. Kip Sorensen and myself, going to do the best that we can to answer some questions for you. I mean, we're going to answer them. I don't know if we'll get them right, but we are going to answer them.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's get started.
Let's do it. All right.
Are these coming from Instagram from a couple weeks ago or a week ago or whatever it was?
Yeah. Instagram questions. We got flooded as always to follow Mr. Mickler on Instagram for an opportunity to submit your questions in the future. You can follow him on Insta at Ryan Mickler, Michler. All right. XX Kovanix. When will people say enough is enough with the mob rule, i.e. BLM and Antifa? When do you think enough is enough?
I don't know. I don't know what the line is, but my wife and I were talking about this, I think, over the weekend. And here's the deal. We have so much to lose. If we had less to lose, I think we already hit that line.
Yeah.
But we're so comfortable. We're so complacent. We have all of our creature comforts. We live in this relative ease of modernity. Like, we have a lot to lose. And because of that, we've become pacified, sedated, domesticated wimps. And until it gets bad enough that it threatens that comfort, or we don't have anything else to lose, I think at that point, people will start standing up to some of the things that we're seeing in culture today. But not when we're sedated. Why would we risk that?
Yeah. And it's so removed from everybody right now, right? Like, I'm sure people are fed up. Enough has been enough, right? But it's not a high enough percentage. It's still like, oh, well, that's happening, over there, right? Not in my neighborhood.
I was just texting with Ian Smith. He owns Attila's Gym in New Jersey. A lot of you guys are familiar with him. He was on the podcast months ago. But yeah, man, what he's doing is crazy. Like, how he's standing up to Governor Murphy, and he's in court right now. And it's a struggle. It's a real struggle for him when they have had I don't want to quote this, but I don't think they've had any confirmed cases of COVID, or if they have, it's been relatively few. They just want to operate their business. They're smart about the way they're doing it, but for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, we know why, but the government, the state of New Jersey has pointed him out and his business owners and deliberately and intentionally gone after him. So,
yeah. Well, and I think it's important to say this, and maybe you can clarify, because Ian, and obviously you guys had a conversation. I don't think he needed to do this. So, like, people need to realize, like, that he made a choice because he's standing for what he believes is right. Yeah. Not because he had to. And so kind of the suffering that, and there's a little bit of forcing his hand, but I really do feel like he decided to take this on. He decided to take this on. And that's memorable, because how many of us would be like, oh, you know what? I can make do. I'm going to skirt around the issue. I'm not going to, like, confront it head on. He chose to confront it head on. Right. So if you want to support this guy for actually, like, putting his life through hell, possibly, to actually,
no, not possibly, it has been.
Yeah. Yeah. Dragging, standing up and putting his life through hell because he wants to stand up for something that he believes in. Man, you should support the guy, because he's not doing it just for him. He's doing it for, I'm assuming he's doing it for the greater masses, right? For the greater good. And he's willing to take a stand where a lot of people are not willing to willing to do so. And it's going to take, he could have gotten a job somewhere else. He could have adjusted, and
he could have
bypassed this all.
And they have adjusted. You know, they're not just. I think what a lot of people just assume is they're being reckless and they're being stupid and careless with their members and their business, and they're not. He's adjusted. They've made pivots. They've done things with integrity, I think, you know, and trying to make sure that his members who he serves are being protected and safe. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, if you can support, absolutely, because I know he's going to need it. They're going through the court process right now and potential jail time and permanently closing his business. I mean, it's a real thing. So yeah, if you can support, please do. But yeah, it's going to take a lot of guys like that standing up and saying, no, I'm not doing this, putting their foot down and taking some risk. That's what it comes with as well. Is there's an element of risk to it. And again, that goes back to that docile, complacent life that we live. Like, we don't want to take those risks because we have so much to lose. Unless that's threatened, it's just going to continue to slip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next question.
All right. Zach Rambo. Zach Rambo. Nice. Rambo.
Nice.
Every young boy needs to watch The First Blood by age of 12.
That's a rite of passage.
Yep. Favorite UFC fighter? It's not a really critical question, but I actually want to know. So, Zach, this question, Brad.
My favorite UFC fighter.
And don't feel tempted just because they've been on the podcast. So you gotta go with favorite all time.
Give me a second, because I've got a few that I'm trying to debate and decide between. Okay. What would you say?
GSP.
Yeah, that's a legit pick. That wasn't on my list, but as soon as you say that, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Gentleman, humble.
Yeah, seems like he has a lot of class.
Great fighter. Yeah, like arguably one of the best of all time.
Yeah, oh, for sure, no doubt. In addition to that, I would say I really like DC. I think just the fact that it's not even so much his abilities inside the ring, just the fact that he coaches wrestling and he's helping the youth and he seems to be a pretty good and engaged father. That to me speaks volumes about him.
Maybe Jake Paul.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Him and did you see that? Him and DC getting into it?
Yeah.
That stuff's ridiculous. I don't like that stuff.
Dude, Jake, I don't like it either. I think it's stupid. I think it looks bad for the sport, but man, he fights Mayweather. He's cashing in. Would you fight Mayweather? I'd fight Mayweather for millions of dollars.
For what he's going to make.
Second.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't think Jake Paul's not fighting him, right? Logan, his brother is, right?
I know, but just the fact that he's even a conversation is like, how in the hell did you pull this off as some YouTuber? And now he has people off
say that.
Fighting him.
People say he's just a YouTuber. Like,
It's a marketer,
the guy doesn't deeply resonate with me, but it's clear that he's more than a YouTuber. Let's be real about that. And when people say that, it's a slight, right?
Yeah.
But it's
clear, to make fun of him.
Yeah, it's clear that he's more than a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Does he have a whole lot of depth and substance? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the guy, and I don't like that tactic, but for what he's trying to accomplish, it seems to be working.
Yeah. McGregor. Cerrone, no, Cowboys like high on my list, man.
Yeah, Cerrone's up there. McGregor's probably not.
Dillashaw.
I actually liked McGregor over the past year and a half, maybe 2 years, way more. And I'll tell you where it changed for me on McGregor. I always liked him as a fighter, maybe not necessarily as a person. Again, I don't know him, but this is from my perspective. But what really turned it for me is his demeanor in when he fought Cerrone.
Yeah.
There was just something about him that was completely different. It was a level of confidence and maturity. And that really got my attention. Stipe, of course, is on that list. But again, that comes back to not only his behavior and his performance in the ring, but what he does outside of the ring. I mean, there's just so many. But yeah, Cerrone's awesome. I would say maybe Cerrone, DC, or Stipe are high on my list.
Yeah. Yeah. I now that I think about it, I'd say my top three would be GSP, probably BJ Penn, and then Cerrone. And the reason why Cowboy is so cool is just his willingness to take fights
anytime, any place,
all the time. Like, I believe he had a surgery where like an intestines got like jacked up on the ATV. And I think he took a fight like within a few weeks after. Like the guy
it wouldn't surprise me.
The guy's just crazy. Yeah.
I met him. I met him years ago. Solid dude. I actually had a phone call with him, I would say maybe 5-6 months ago. Talked to him, and he was just out working his farm and his ranch, and he was on a tractor and just working the land, So
yeah,
pretty cool guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Super cool. All right. Caleb McDaddy. I like it.
Old McDaddy.
Old McDaddy. Kind of a specific question. We like those, by the way. I'm in the military.
They're better questions. I mean, look,
I know. It's how you answer is we need details.
Well, and the phrase you guys have heard me say a lot is the quality of your life will be determined by the quality of questions that you ask. That's true. If you ask broad, generalized, weak questions, you're going to get broad, generalized, weak answers because you're not giving anybody anything to work with. But if you ask hyper-specific, hyper-focused, results-oriented, performance-based questions, you're going to get answers that are going to facilitate the growth that you're looking for. So if you say, well, how do you be a good person? I mean, it's a good thing to consider, but it's probably not a great question.
What does good look like? What is good specific? Right. What areas? Yeah.
Or if you ask a guy, a strength trainer, for example, well, how do you get strong? You lift weights. Well, that's pretty broad. Well, so is how do you get strong? What is it that you're trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? How soon do you want to get it done? What's your background? Like, give me something to work with so people can actually give you a good answer that you can apply in your life. So sounds like this is a specific question. Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah. So this brother, Caleb, he's in the infantry military. He brings that up because most days he doesn't know what he's doing for work until he gets there. It makes my day really hard to plan out because I don't know when I'm going home or what short breaks or recesses are going to come. I feel that other men possibly have the same issue. So how do you get around and have a cadence around a schedule that is so hectic and doesn't really provide space for planning?
Yeah, I mean, this would be hard for me because I operate best under regimented schedules. Here's my wake up time. Here's what I do first. Here's what I do next, and so on. And so it's very, very regimented, and that works best for me. I'll give you a metaphor based on jiujitsu, like we talk about all the time. So I was rolling with Ty Nichols. Ty's probably, I hover between 190 to 200 is my weight. Ty's probably, I would say, 160 to 170, if I had to guess, somewhere in there. Super strong, but light, mobile, fast, agile. And I was rolling with him the other day, and he was like floating on top of me wherever he wanted to go. He was just like, move here, I would change. He'd float to this other side. I would change. He'd float around. He'd do this, throwing me in arm locks, headlocks, loop chokes, everything. I was like, it was embarrassing, actually, because I'm better than that. He's good, and he's getting really good. He's probably getting close to his purple belt at this point, but he's super good. But the reason I bring it up is that he's very good at adapting and adjusting and then anticipating what's going to happen. He's very, very good at that on the mats. And he'll actually tee those things up. But as he does that, he'll do something and you'll move and he'll adjust before you've finished moving because he's anticipating what's going to happen and he's agile. He's able to move that way. And that's what you need to be with a schedule like you have. You need to be agile. You need to be able to float and move and adapt. When this thing comes up, then you need to pivot and adjust. And you need to be able to do that on the fly. Because if you don't, you're just going to be frustrated and pissed off. If you're so rigid that it has to be this certain way, you're going to be bent out of shape and pissed off that it's not that way. Well, this is the reality. This is what you're dealing with. So you might have certain things throughout the day that you need to check off the list. I need to work out. I need to plan my day out. I need to eat correctly. I want to make sure that my family knows I care about them. I want to get my job done proficiently. And so you have these boxes you want to check off. In your circumstance, and other men who are listening that have these same circumstances, you just can't plug them into the same place. You just have to be okay with knowing that it's not always going to be at 6 a.m. your workouts. Sometimes it's going to be at 4 p.m. And what you can begin to do is you can begin to look at what types of days you're having. You could, for example, consider a day that, and I'm just throwing these out here, it's arbitrary. It could be completely off, but you'll understand the point. You could look at a day that starts, for example, at 6 and ends at 5 as this is my traditional day. So that's the traditional day. On the traditional day, here's my schedule. Here's what I do. Okay. A non-traditional day is we're going to work in the morning. We're going to take a long break, and then we're going to have to come back that evening. That's your quote unquote non-traditional day. So you start placing these days in different categories because you'll start to notice trends, right? It's not always going to be so sporadic. No, they're going to fit into 3 or 4 or 5 maybe types of days. And you base your schedule on each of those days. So you're like, okay, this is an A day. Here's what I do on A days. This is a B day. Here's what I do on B days. This is an F day. Here's what I do on F days. And so you start placing these in categories so you can still systematize it, but you've created some flexibility and adaptability in your planning and processes. That's what I would do. And I've done that because I used to work retail. So I would have to work. Sometimes it was opening the store. Sometimes it was a middle shift. Sometimes it was closing the store out. Sometimes on long weekends or holiday weekends or Christmas, the month of, December, end of November, it was working all day, every day. But again, you build schedules based on what types of days are taking place because there's only so many schedules that you can run.
Yeah. Well, and I think 2 additional thoughts is one, you got to act on the moment, right? When I think about times where I'm most agile, it's I take advantage of the moment and I'm ready for the moment. So I keep a gi in my car. Why? Because if that meeting gets scheduled or canceled today at noon, I'm going to go train. It's not on the radar. It's not even planned today. But if that meeting gets scheduled or something changes, I'm ready to go train immediately. But that it means I can't procrastinate. I can't go,
that's a good idea.
You know what? I wasn't ready. I'll just do it some other time. Then it won't happen. Right. And so I'm thinking about like a really crazy schedule. It's like, I got to get my workout in today. I don't know when, but guess what's in my car? Guess what's in my bag? My gym clothes. So the minute someone says, hey, we're taking an hour break, it's like, bam, taking advantage of the moment. I'm going to go work out immediately right now. The other thing that came to mind too is I think you have to be a little unreasonable sometimes with a crazy schedule like that. And I had, my weekend was really crazy. Asia had a girls trip, left Friday night. I do distance runs on Saturdays. I have kids with me. I'm not going to push my 2-year-old for 12 miles on a run. Like he's not going to last. So I'm thinking, when can I work out? Sunday night. That sucks. Probably run in the dark. Oh, well. Like,
make it happen.
That's
right.
That's how.
Or you run 3 miles instead of 12 with your kid. You could probably last 3 months, right?
Exactly. Or maybe I can get a 5 in and then a 3 and a 2, and that's better than nothing, right? So you have to kind of be a little unreasonable and be committed to whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish.
I think ultimately those are great points. I mean, those are very practical points, but I think ultimately this comes down to expectations, unmet expectations, right? Yeah. You want it to be a certain way. I want my schedule to be this. I want this to happen this way. And it's just not going to happen that way. So you could do one of 2 things. You could be completely pissed and bent out of shape and this should be this way. And I can't
throw your hands up, by the way. Most guys will throw their hands up. Oh, it shouldn't have to be this way. So I'm not going to do anything.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one avenue. Or you can say, no, this is the reality. I may not like it. I may want to pivot to something else, which is a completely reasonable consideration.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, this is the way it is. Let's not have any expectations. Let's not be all pissed off and bent out of shape about our own current circumstance. That goes to what you were saying. And then be present in the moment. So like you said, pivot, adjust, tweak, change, but don't drone on about how this shouldn't be this way and it's so hard. Okay, it is. So what now? And then you move into a solution-oriented mindset, like Carol Dweck, I think, would say, the growth versus the fixed mindset. Yeah. Move into the growth mindset, which is, hey, what opportunities are presenting themselves because of this situation? How can I get better? How can I improve? How can I learn to be creative, to come up with some solutions on demand, to build up resilience, to build up discipline? A lot of great opportunities here.
Yeah. That comment that you just made of unset or unmet expectations and dealing in reality or dealing with what is so is so profound. I mean, disrupted relationship, upset with someone. It's like, stop.
Client-employee relationship.
You have some expectation, but the reality is this. So deal in reality, deal with what is so. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. Right. Let go of the meaning. Yeah.
And if you don't like, here's what you need to hear though. We're not saying just settle with reality.
Complacent. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We're saying acknowledge reality so you can do something about it, which is either to pivot, to adjust, to be creative, to come up with different solutions, or change your reality. But you have to look at it correctly first, because if you're making things up about the current situation, you're not giving yourself the foothold or the framework to create reasonable solutions to your perceived problems.
Yeah. And most people, it cripples them even. Like they'll be so set on the fact that they shouldn't have to be doing X that they just won't even take action because they shouldn't have to,
Right. And this is a big problem.
Action.
This is a big problem too with this whole victim mindset where people look, there are actual victims. When I say that, some people will come back and inevitably say, well, some people actually, yes, I acknowledge that some people have been victimized. Absolutely.
But they should still do something. They should still become better.
Right. Exactly. If you're an employee and your boss continues to miss his agreements that he's made with you, that is a form of somebody else taking advantage of you or manipulating you. That is beyond your control to a degree. But then at some point you have to acknowledge that this is what's happening. And you need to come up with a solution by either being more assertive in your current position or finding work elsewhere. Like, don't just stay there forever. It's the same thing with abusive relationships. If you're a man or a woman who's in an abusive relationship, physical, mental, whatever, that somebody else is abusing you. They're taking advantage of you. But it's still your responsibility to get out of that situation and that environment. Just because somebody's taking advantage of you does not tie your hands and mean that you no longer have any responsibility in the matter. You do. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to put yourself in a better situation.
Yeah. And I think it's important to address the person that, well, this happened to me, Ryan, a long time ago.
Yeah, right.
And because those people are like, well, there's nothing I could do about it. It's over. Right. And it's already written on me. The one thing that I would suggest for those of you that feel hindered by some past experience, even your interpretation of what occurred to you is not accurate. It's still an interpretation. And the probability is your interpretation of that event is probably more damaging to you than what actually occurred. And I'm thinking about like parents, abusive parents. You know what the most damaging thing of a parent that was probably abusive to a child when you were younger is the fact that you felt your parents did not love you, that what it meant that you're not good enough, that you will never be good enough. That interpretation is probably more dangerous than the physical harm in which your parents had.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, at some point we have to become mature men and acknowledge the situations for what they are, even if they were scary or demanding or difficult or challenging or dangerous. Acknowledge it for what it is, and then say, okay, well, I'm not going to allow that to happen anymore. And here's my path forward. Here's how I'm going to improve in spite of this. Well, because of this situation.
Totally.
All right. Next question.
All right. Alski 77. How do you feel about people copying you? Basically doing the same general thing. Good. Is it good because it helps the cause, or bad because it can draw attention when people take it too far? And I think this is a kind of a good question because I think it's, how's this? When I read this question, I'm like, oh, this is so specific for Ryan. But I think we might have areas, all of us might have areas in our life where, I don't know, we're at work and a coworker's like, quote unquote, stealing your idea and doing it. And how can we be okay with it? Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, there's things where it's like blatantly knocking off what we do, whether it's a phrase or a system that we use or our logo or our motto where people would blatantly rip it off, that I have legal protection in place. Right? Yeah. Like we do the trademark thing, we do the copyright thing. Like I have made sure that we protect ourselves from that type of infringement, copyright infringement. That's intellectual property, right? That is valuable. That's mine. People can't steal it. Now, if somebody wants to start something similar or has an idea or wants to do what we're doing, I actually like that. We have programs and courses that teach other men how to do what it is we're doing that I've made available. I've taught people how to podcast. I've taught people how to build movements. Somebody who's doing something similar to what we're doing, the better way to frame it would for me to say, I'm doing something similar to him I hired him when I very first started and he coached and showed me. Yeah. So
how do you deal with that though? How do you get past the scarcity mentality, Ryan, of like, I got to keep this to myself. Otherwise it's going to diminish the value that you bring to the table.
Here's how I'm going to make a broad generalization here, but there's really only two types of individuals that would do this. Okay. Either you could tell them everything about what you're doing to the T, every little thing, spell it all out, and they still wouldn't do it. The other type of person,
because they're not willing to work.
Right. They just think you just show up and it's win. Yeah. Yes. So that's a type of individual. There's another type of individual who, this is the type of individual I tend to be, and I was as we started Order of Man, who will hire a coach or look at what somebody else is doing and mimic it and make it their own, or they'll do everything to the T again that their coach tells them to do. And here's the interesting thing about that. That person was going to do it even without me. Right. So somebody comes to me and they're doing something similar to what I'm doing. And they come to me and they say, hey, Ryan, I really like what you're doing. I'm considering starting something similar, growing a movement similar to what you're doing. If it's that type of individual, they're going to do it with or without me. So if I can help them, I can be an ally. And I'd rather be an ally to these individuals. And here's what I know. Those people like that are going to do it again without me. Or they're just not going to last. Like there's so many people who have started to do what we've done over the past 6 years. Some have mimicked us. Some have blatantly tried to rip us off and copy exactly verbatim what we're doing. And I just know that those individuals, the majority of them just aren't going to last. They don't. That's the one thing I know about myself, in spite of all of my other flaws and shortcomings. I'm going to be in this game forever. As long as I have a desire to be in it. There's nothing, as long as my desire is still there, there's nothing that's going to take me out of this game. Nothing. Not everybody can say that. They're flippant. They're hectic. They think about different things. They bounce from thing to thing and task to task, project. Well, Ryan, how's your podcast been so successful? Because we've done it for 6 years and we have not missed a single episode. It's over 700 podcasts. We haven't missed a single episode. So how am I so good at it? How is it so successful? That's the answer.
Yeah. And you're good looking, like I mentioned earlier.
Well, that just goes without saying. I didn't even think I needed to say that.
Yeah.
So I don't mind when somebody wants to do something similar. If somebody comes to me and they ask for guidance and direction, if they want to have a call, like a one-to-one call with me, I don't do that. I do that with my coaching clients only. But if they came to me and they had like one specific question, like, hey, what about this? I'm going to help that individual. Why wouldn't I help that individual? Now I'm not going to give them the phone numbers to my vendors and all the back end legal rant. Like I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to give them the thoughts and the ideas so that they can go out and learn to do it for themselves.
And and I don't want to dive into this too much, but like, is that just confidence? I mean, you can do that because you have the confidence that helping that individual is not going to take away from what you're doing. It's not going to hinder this movement.
Yeah, but it's not the confidence. It's not. And that's what we need to be careful of, because sometimes men believe that.
Or your commitment.
No, it's my work. It's my work ethic.
Yeah.
It's not the confidence. The confidence is just the result of my work ethic. So what a lot of men believe is some men are just more confident than others just because. No, that isn't true. They've earned it. So let's not point to the result of the actual solution as why I can feel the way I feel. It's not confidence. It's not commitment. It's my work ethic. It's the fact that I've worked my balls off for 6 years on this one thing, hyper-focused on this one thing for 6 years, that has developed and built the confidence for me to say it's okay if somebody wants to do something similar. Because I'll tell you, when I started, I took that more as a threat. I didn't have the abundance that I do now. And I was significantly more scarce because I hadn't earned that level of confidence through the work ethic that I had put in.
Got it.
So yeah, start it. You know, and look, I'm inspired. There's guys that I've helped that have started different things and branched off in different ways that I've actually been inspired by. Oh man, that's a good idea. And then I've incorporated some of those ideas into what I'm doing. So it goes both ways. Here's what I would say though, because there are a lot of men who are listening to this podcast who want to do things that we're doing. Just do it in your own way. That's all I suggest. Not because I'm scared or whatever, but because you're going to be more successful if you do it your way. When I started Order of Man, I was making something that was very, very similar to Art of Manliness. And fortunately, I realized very, very quickly, and I had one individual who said something to me. It was very abrasive, the way that he said it. And I was taken back at first, but the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, and he was asking essentially how I was different from Art of Manliness. And it just kind of caught me though. I can't even remember exactly the way he said it, but the way he said it, I was like, well, that was kind of a jerk thing to say, but yeah, that actually makes sense. And so very quickly I pivoted, adjusted, started to make it my own. And it's no surprise now looking back that when Order of Man started to take off, it was when I stopped doing it like Art of Manliness or Sean Whalen with Lions Not Sheep or any of these other Garrett White or any of these other programs that are out there that are well known, and started to do it my own way, that we really got traction and attention.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Mikey G40. Hello, Mr. Mickler. I've been a follower for Order of Man for about 2 years and 2.5 years now. My wife has been having a very hard time with her mental toughness and stability. I've tried encouragement, tough love, and even given the gym. I can't read today. And have even gone to the gym with her to help. How can I get her more motivated and help her achieve her goals? Have you experienced this yourself?
I have not experienced it too much because my wife is pretty motivated. Yeah. Not pretty motivated. She's very motivated. So fortunately, I haven't had to ever feel like I need to inspire here. But here's what I would say. You're talking about going to the gym and motivating her and talking with her and all this.
Can I have an ask really quick? As you answer this, you know, maybe we say, you know, your spouse and maybe even some sites of, you know, a child. You know, you have a child that's
for sure. It's the same. It's one and the same.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to.
Yeah, the answers are one and the same.
Okay.
Sometimes I think we as men have a tendency of placing our own views and perspectives and expectations on the shoulders of others. We do this with our children, certainly. Especially our sons, like our firstborn son is like the son who needs to follow in dad's footsteps, and he needs to do what dad does, and he needs to act like him, and he needs to behave like him, and he needs to say the same things like him.
They won't, by the way.
No, they won't.
Yeah.
And not only will they not, you'll actually drive them away from you, and therefore you won't have the opportunities to train and coach and teach and motivate and inspire because they despise you. Because you try to pigeonhole them into something that they weren't excited about. But we do this with our spouses too. Well, how come she doesn't want to work out? And how come she doesn't want to read this self-help book? And how come she won't even listen to one of my podcasts? And right, because she's not motivated by the same things you are, which doesn't mean she's not motivated. That's the conclusion a lot of us come to. That's the conclusion I used to come to. If she doesn't do it the same way, well, she just doesn't care about being good, self-improvement, self-development, motivation, inspiring. She doesn't care about that stuff. No, maybe she does. She just doesn't care about it in the same lens that you do.
Yeah.
She's looking at it through a different lens. And I've realized this over the past, I would say 5, 6, 7 years now, maybe slightly longer. But somewhere in there, I realized, she actually is very motivated. She's very disciplined. We spent the last 48 hours, because we're recording on Monday, we spent probably, I would say at least half, 25 to maybe even 30 hours over the past 2 days outside, working in her garden, building garden boxes, putting dirt, filling up garden boxes. She's planting with the kids. I built a couple new planters, mowing the lawn. Like, we were outside doing all of this, and she wasn't unmotivated. I didn't have to convince her to go out there. It was none of that. It was simply, let's go do it. And here's the difference. We support them in that, right? It's human psychology. You reward positive behavior. So it sounds weird saying in this frame, she's exhibiting positive behavior. It's weird to say it like that, right? But it is. That's what I'd actually like out of her. As a wife, I want her to be motivated. I want her to be inspired. I want her to be interested in her own things. I want her to improve herself as my wife.
She would expect that of you. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. So when she does those things of her own accord, or even if with a little prodding, maybe from me here and there, then I'm going to reward that by encouraging that behavior. How do you encourage that with a wife? You spend time with them doing it. That's a big one. You don't have to be totally bought into it, but you should be at least interested in it.
Yeah.
You help, you assist, you support, you encourage, you foster, you celebrate when they do well. This goes for kids too, like you were saying earlier. So I think everybody's motivated by something. I also think everybody's demotivated by things. And maybe you're just touching on the things that aren't motivating to her. And you could just spend a little more time, exploring. If I told my wife, hey, we're going to go do jiujitsu and you're going to come and we're going to do this, and this is how you're going to stay in shape.
And you're going to love it. Yeah.
Every minute of it. She's like, I'm not doing that. And of course,
position number 1, north and south.
Now, you got me going now. Every time we'd go would be a battle. However, she loves CrossFit. Good. Great. Same. You're getting in shape. You're being physical. Yeah. Like this. I have no problem with that. Why would I?
Yeah. So much that she got certified, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just about a month or so ago. Yeah. Right. And I didn't have to tell her she should go get certified, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't say, Helen, you should really, no. What I did is, when she came to me and said she's going to do this, I said, that's awesome. You should do that. What can I do to help you study and train for it and everything else? And then she took her test, and I think we celebrated. We probably did dinner that night or something, so it's good.
Yeah. Cool. One thing that might help, man, I wish I had my notes from the book. What book did we read 2 months ago in Iron Council?
Art of Impossible?
Yeah. He has a section in the book where he breaks down what is motivation. And he comprises motivation of 3 things. I can't remember all 3, but one of them is clarity of purpose and goal. I mean, sometimes we're not motivated because we don't see what's possible, right? It's not clear in our mind. So why would I work out if I don't know what that's going to provide me, right? And so I would really dive in, maybe read that book and dive into like what really drives people from a psychology perspective to get motivated and to be able to act on things. There might be some, you know what I mean? Yeah, atomic habit looping, and some other stuff there too. So
there's another good book called Coactive Coaching. And I read that book years ago, and I thought it would help me with this movement, and it has. but I didn't know it would help me as much as it had with raising my children and leading my wife.
What's the book again?
Coactive coaching.
Coactive coaching. Got it.
Yeah. So a lot of the times we think, because we're assertive and we want to exert ourselves and our will, and we want things to be done right. I do anyways. That's kind of my personality. And so I would be a taskmaster. Drive. Do this, do that. And everything would be demanding. And here's a task and get this done. My wife, my kids. But coactive coaching is a different philosophy. And instead you're leading them, you're guiding them, you're walking them through their own scenarios. And so you're asking questions, to go back to what we said earlier about asking powerful questions that move the conversation forward, trying to elicit desires like you're talking about from them. What are you interested in? I'm going to tell you what you should be interested in, but really trying to help them explore and unpack and uncover what it is they're interested in through asking questions, through engaging in insightful conversation. So that book really helped me. It's a valuable resource in my repertoire of books up there.
Adding it to my book list right now. So everyone hold tight for 20 minutes here. Let me add this.
You're a technology guy. It takes you 20 minutes to add a book there or what?
Well, I got an iPhone and so it doesn't work as good.
So it's going to take 20 minutes instead of 30 with your Android device. Got it.
All right. I added it there. That wasn't too bad. All right. The Redneck Genius. I've heard a lot about. I wonder if that's Bubba's account. I don't know.
I mean, they got the redneck part, genius part. I don't know about that.
Say, if you take genius off, maybe it's Bubba's. We haven't made fun of Bubba for a while, so hopefully he's listening. All right. I've heard a lot about joint pain from jiu-jitsu on the podcast. Is earlier life arthritis a normal end result of intense training? Planning to check out some facilities around me.
I don't know about you. So here's one thing I'm dealing with right now, and I have been for the past 2 months. I pop my knuckles. That's just a habit I'm in. I pop my knuckles.
Oh, you intentionally pop them?
Yeah, like I pop my knuckles. Okay. Yeah.
Got it.
Except for this ring finger right here. I don't pop that one because I can't, like all my fingers, like I have good dexterity in the hands, right? But this finger right here just doesn't work the way that it should.
Okay.
And what was interesting is I remember when I started the jiu-jitsu journey, when I got done with class, these two fingers would like hurt, like really hurt. And I asked my buddy, Matt Arrington, I'm like, man, like after jiu-jitsu, these fingers, I don't even know why. He's like, it's your grip. That's where you're holding it with these two fingers. I was like, oh, I never really understood that. And then after that, these two fingers started hurting because I adjusted my grip because these fingers were hurting. So I adjusted my grip
to get more fingers involved. Yeah,
that's right. So now they all hurt instead of just these two. Now they all hurt. And I'm okay with it. It makes me know that, hey, and the right elbow is just constant little ping in the right elbow.
It hurt. Yeah.
Especially when I roll with Ty, who I was talking about earlier for some reason, get those arm bars on there. And I like it because it's awesome. It means that you're working. It means that you're exercising. I mean, I don't want to get injured. I'm not saying that, but just a constant little reminder that you're working and you're doing something and you're using your body is, I think, good.
Yeah. And some guys might be, in Redneck Genius, just do a Google search for jiu-jitsu hands and you'll see how bad this can get, right? Like
totally.
Guys' knuckles get jacked really bad. So, I mean, it's just part of the game. And it sounds like he's looking for a gym, but he wants to know this answer first. Don't worry about it. Just start training. And guess what? Most guys know this. Most guys know that hey, I'm going to crack ribs. I'm going to bust ribs. My fingers are going to be jacked. My hips hurt sometimes. And none of us are stopping. Because it's worth it. And we adjust.
Right. You adjust. See, I think the thing I've only trained at two schools, one school, and then I train privately with Pete and some of the Origin guys. But I've never been in a situation where somebody wasn't respectful of an injury that I vocalized.
Yeah.
Like the other night I went and trained and one of the guys like, hey man, I'm really hurting. My right shoulder is really hurting. I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks for letting me know. I'm going to deliberately attack your right shoulder now. Let's go. No, it was like, oh, okay. I'll stay away from that side. And if I do happen to get something, just, tap. Yeah. Just tap. Like so when I very first started, and I haven't been training that long, we have these egos, right? It's like, I'm not going to tap. I'm going to fight through this. Yeah. And now if Ty gets me in an arm bar and I'm like, he's got me, I'm not going to even let him finish the submission. Cause I don't want that. And it's not worth it. It's like, yeah, bro, you got me. You got me. So let's reset. Let's start over. Totally. You just need to drop the ego. And sometimes it's good to feel something. You're like, okay, I can feel like you feel this, but don't get yourself hurt because your ego is too big and you don't want to prove yourself. There's nothing to prove. You can't prove anything anyways. You're not nearly as good as the other people you're going to roll with. That's the reality. So deal with it and try not to prove it because it's going to hurt mentally and physically.
Tap early, train another day. Right. Like that's, you got to take that approach and to like adjustment of game. Like we've had guys at Unified where Johnny, like he had knee surgery. And so he brought like in a foam mattress, like a egg foam mattress that you put on your thing, wrapped it around his legs. We used belts to tie his legs together and kept training. Right.
Upper body game.
We call it the burrito. Right. And so he's wearing the burrito, training with the burrito. I've hurt my shoulder really bad once. Tuck it in my belt. I tie my arm to my body and I'm training with one arm. So it's impossible for me to get it out.
Yeah.
But spider guard, I don't hardly ever work spider guard. Why? Because my knuckles hurt so bad. So I don't play that game. That's not my game. I stay away from that game, because I'm trying to save my knuckles. So it's, you just pivot and adjust just like life, right?
Exactly. That's why we talk about
jiu-jitsu is life. That's why you bring it up. Yeah. All right. Droopy 70 made a list when I was young and accomplished everything I wrote in it. It was my identity after, and now I felt repetitive, goalless ever since. How do I get back in control and become driven again? This question does go deeper. I have an example of this where I remember when I was so set on college, it was all in my mind. And then I got done and I had like kind of depression. I have a father-in-law retired from work, kind of got depressed, right? So I think it's kind of related. It's this had a mission completed. And now what?
Make a new list.
Make a new mission.
That's it. People often say that I see things too black and white, or that's easier said than done, or it isn't that simple. No, it is that simple. Make a new list. Okay, good. You got that done. So one of my baseball coaches used to say, you're only as good as your last at bat. That's it. You're only as good as your last at bat. If you struck out, well, that was your last at bat. So what are you going to do this at bat? If you hit a home run, well, good, but that was your last at bat. That's over. That's done. You're only as good as
you better keep playing so you can get back at bat again.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're only as good as your last at bat. You wrapped up your identity in accomplishing these things. And I would say job well done. I think that's commendable. Of course. Yeah. Okay. Uncle Rico, you're going to live in the past about how you guys would have taken state 30 years ago if they would have put you in that game. Because that's what you're saying is, well, I used to be so good and I used to this and that and that, and now I'm not doing anything. Well, yeah, because you're living on the back of your last at bat. What's your next at bat going to be? Figure that out. Engage in something. And it might take you a while to figure out what that's going to be, to explore and try new things and take some risks and go on some adventures and say yes to some things that maybe you wouldn't normally say yes to. And we talk about this. I think this is a reoccurring trend here in the Ask Me Anything. And eventually you're going to find your way into something that is really engaging to you and very exciting. And you'll feel how you felt before because you're on a meaningful, purpose-driven path. But you got to explore what that is and get over what you used to be and what you used to do positively and negatively and start recreating yourself. The other thing that we do too, I've done this. We'll compare ourselves to other people. We'll do it to the people ahead of us, where we'll think, well, why am I not there? And that's deflating. But the other thing that we do, and people don't talk about this all the time, is we compare ourselves to other men who are not as far down the path as we are in certain areas. And we rest on that. Well, I'm better than that guy. Like I'm making, $500,000 a year, and, that puts me in the 1%. I don't give a shit what percent I'm in anyways. I remember years ago in our financial planning practice, we had this trainer. He came to our office and he was training us on some of the proprietary, excuse me if I could say that, proprietary systems that we're using for financial planning. And he was a very high producer. He's very, very successful. And I believe he was in Florida, but he came to Utah to do some training. And the head of our office said, hey, we want to recruit you. We would love to recruit you here. If you moved here, you would be in the top 1% of all of our agents throughout this organization. And I'll never forget that guy's response. He's like, I don't want to be in the top 1% of this organization. My goals are way more ambitious than that. I'll never forget that. But the guy who's talking to him was playing on his vanity. Yeah. Right. His ego.
You'd be the best of the best in this pond.
Yes. Yeah. And he said, I don't want, right. And essentially what he said is, I'm not playing in this pond. I'm playing in the ocean. I want to be the best in the ocean. So is that what you're doing? Are you comparing yourself? I even heard it in your question. I accomplished all this stuff when I was young. I did so well and I got all this done, and okay, cool. So what? Nobody cares. And you shouldn't care, actually, because again, that was your last at bat.
Yeah, I like it. I think next question is a good segue, right? So, you might be hearing last at bat. I need to get my game plan together, start taking some action. And then we kind of get into this gentleman's question. Krav Hall, how do you prevent yourself from getting burned out? I have a schedule. I put it together based upon the battle planner, but I've been feeling worn out for the last few weeks. Everything in the schedule is to improve myself as a man or a hobby I enjoy. But lately, it just feels like a box that's getting checked off the list. Thanks in advance. I really appreciate all that you do. And Krav here, he mentions the battle planner really quick. You can purchase a battle planner, store.orderman.com. You can learn about what is a battle planner by buying Sovereignty, Ryan's book, or actually you can even get the Battle Ready, orderman.com/battle ready. It's a free thing that you guys can sign up for. And we have a mobile app called the Battle Planner to learn more, orderman.com 12-week battle planner. Whoa. Lots of battle planner options.
A lot of stuff, because it ends up being, again, a reoccurring theme. I mean, we talk about planning, not because we want to sell more battle planners, although that helps fund what we're doing, but because this is legitimately the answer.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. This is how you do it. Yeah.
So this past weekend, I spent a lot of time in the yard. I told you guys that. And part of that was getting all the vehicles out of the barn from the winter and getting them all turned on and making sure the batteries were running and making sure oil levels were where they needed to be. We got my oldest son's bike up and running. We got my second son's bike up and running. We got the mowers running, the weed whackers running, the tractor running, the side-by-side running. We tried to get the Scout running, couldn't do that. So I got to do a little more work there, but we did a lot of work in getting these things running. Okay. And so there's a point to me telling you this. Engines don't like to just sit, and they don't like to run dry, right? They want to be lubricated. You need to grease them. You need to oil them. They need the lubrication, right? And if they don't, what happens? They start seizing up. They overheat. They seize up. They bind up. Things break. Things bend because it gets too hot, and then it just becomes not functional.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. You're running dry and you're running hot.
Yeah.
And those two things are bad for engines. Dry and heat, bad. Okay. You need to lubricate. And you need to bring the temperature down. So how do you do that? By taking your foot off the dang gas for a second and getting under the hood of the engine or under the hood of the car and checking that the belts are working properly, checking that everything's lubricated the way that it should, that the fluid levels are where they need to be, the tire pressure is good. This is what you need to do. So that might mean, hey, I'm going to take a vacation. I'm going to read a different book. I'm going to work out, but I'm going to do a different workout than I've done in the past.
And do sprints at the track instead.
Exactly.
Just something drastically different that you've never done.
Or I'm not going to do strength training today, but you know what I am going to do? I'm going to go on a 5-mile hike with my family. I'm going to take my wife out and we're going to go see a play, which isn't something that like I'm extremely excited about, but it's different. It's unique. It's different. It's entertaining. It's interesting. Instead of reading that self-development book, we talked about this, you and I, Kip, I think a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Read a fictional work. Read something different, something interesting. Don't keep consuming the self-help and self-develop. That's your foot on the throttle, and it's okay. But here's the problem I have with a lot of these people on social media is they're like, balls to the wall, all in 100%, don't quit, work harder. I get it. I understand it. And there's people who work really well like that. I'm not one of those guys. I like going hard as I can for a period of time and then just kind of recycling and resetting and doing the maintenance on the engine, if you will, to use that analogy again. Just do the maintenance. And then if you do the maintenance, here's the cool thing about it. You can keep operating at the same performance that you want to operate at. But if you don't maintain it, it's going to gradually gradually reduce until you're just burnt into the ground and you're useless. And you just, are out to pasture for the rest of your life. So do the maintenance, mix it up, and then you can get back into the game. I mean, look at NASCAR. Look at any rate. Like, these are the best performing vehicles in the world. And yet they know we're going to take, even during they literally stop to do maintenance in the middle of a race. Pit stops. They're maintaining the car. They're changing the tires out. They're checking the gauge. I don't know what they're doing. They're checking the gauges. They're putting more fuel into the car. In the middle of a race, they're doing it. So surely you can do that too.
Lewis lifestyle. What would you look for in a business partner?
I don't know. I don't like the idea of a business partner. I never have liked that idea. That might be a personality issue.
Yeah. But how about like partnering up with like Origin maybe, or something like that? No,
I mean, I'll definitely answer the question for sure. I'm just saying, like, from a bit, like having a business partner, if you're talking about partnerships in the business, I again, I don't like that. But if you're talking about people or companies or people that you have relationships with, like you said, Origin or Black Rifle or, any of these Soren X, any of these companies that we work quite a bit with, I look for, the first is integrity. Like, they got to be in integrity. They have to be honest and in integrity. If without that,
what do you trust? Yeah. There's nothing. Yeah.
Right. So that's important. I also have to believe in what they believe in. What are they motivated by? What are they driven by? If it's in alignment with mine, that's going to be a better likelihood that we're going to have a good relationship. If it's out of alignment, then no, I'm not going to do that. We can be friends or we can do other things, but we're not going to do business together because it just isn't going to work. Communication is a big one for me. If people can't communicate with me, then again, it's going to create all sorts of problems and issues that are going to keep you from moving down the path or working through issues that you might have together in working together. So we have, what do I say? Integrity, mission, or what's their purpose, what drives them, and communication. And then just work ethic. Like they got to work hard. They want to work hard. They want to grind. They want to get after it. They're excited. They're ambitious. They're willing to back it up with their actions. They don't sit around. They don't wait. They're assertive. There's a few things.
Yeah. Bought in. Right. They're committed to whatever
for sure
that is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that comes back to the mission or the purpose thing. It's like, they have to believe in you. You have to believe in them.
Yeah.
And there's companies out there and people out there who are great people and great organizations and companies that I don't think any less of, but they're just not on the same mission. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. Like, do your thing, but we're not going to work together in that capacity, but I'll be over here supporting you and buying your products and stuff, but we're not working together.
Yeah. All right. Transcend movement. How long do you think it will take to shift the cultural tide back towards personal responsibility and towards the importance of key principles of our republic?
Well, there's an assumption there. And that is that we're actually on the right track. And right, because if we were on the right path, then okay, surely at some point we would completely get on track. We're not even on the right. In fact, we're moving backwards.
Yeah,
we're moving backwards.
And I don't know how that's like, if you just think about on an individual level, what causes a person to shift to take personal responsibility for their life, and unfortunately,
getting their asses kicked. There's two things.
Exactly. Yeah,
you got to get your ass kicked. And, or you have to have somebody show you a path to redemption.
And most of the time it's you getting your ass kicked,
but it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
For a lot of people it is, but you don't have to get your ass kicked in order to realize that I should do something about this.
Yeah.
Right. Like, well, an example that we've used in the past is I had to come to a near divorce for me to begin to fix myself and then ultimately fix our relationship. It didn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
I didn't have to wait until my wife and I separated to do that. Or even when we're talking about getting your ass kicked, literally, you don't have to wait until you're in a violent encounter or you get a gun pulled on you or somebody punches you or you're at the bar and you try to defend somebody. You don't have to wait until that happens to realize that maybe you should start getting strong and start training and learning how to use firearms and learning how to defend yourself. You don't have to wait for that, but we do because we're lazy and we're complacent and we think we're better than we are. We prop up our expectations of how we'll perform in these circumstances and situations. And it just leads to nowhere good. So we're on the wrong path. And here's an example. Over the past couple of days, the jobs reports have come out, and there was like 266,000 new jobs coming in, which 266,000 jobs. That sounds good. Well, it was projected and anticipated that it would be over 1 million. So it's a quarter of what the projection was, or it's less than a quarter, I should say, of what the projection was. And then the other part of the story was that there's a labor shortage. And the current
unemployment is high. Yeah.
Yeah. And the current, yes. Interesting. Right. And the current administration says, yeah, see, this is why we need immigration, because there's a labor shortage. We need to bring people in who will fill these jobs. Well, no, the reason is because we're literally paying people not to work. That's actually pretty sad. That I get it. I understand somebody can just collect a paycheck. Why would they go to work if they could just collect a paycheck? That's hard for me to think that I would do that.
I wouldn't. I would right now. There's no way it would.
I would. Really? I would.
No, out of principle, I'd be like, no, keep it.
No, wait. Oh, no. Okay. We're misunderstanding each other. We agree. Yeah. You would go to work is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what that's what I was saying too. I thought you said you would not go to work if you had that paycheck.
No,
but there's millions, hundreds of millions of people who would do that. So, people don't want to work. They're getting paid and incentivized not to work, not to get after it. You look at birth rates are going down. So that's dwindling. People are not getting married. Which creates all sorts of problems. Regardless of what you think about marriage, there's a degeneracy in sleeping around, not committing to somebody. It's not good, man. It's really not good. You see the decline of church and religion. And again, regardless of what you think about the spiritual component of that, that's a place where people go to learn values and principles that serve themselves and their communities well.
And get purpose-driven lives and
yes.
something beyond oneself and to promote service of others. Yeah,
right.
That whole religion thing. Yeah, it's not good for our society.
So it's rough, man. And so how long is it going to take? I don't know. It depends on how long before we get ourselves back on track and what's going to happen to derail us hard enough where we need to wake up, kind of jolt us back into life. But
can I say something? Because I don't know, like, guys that are listening that feel like disheartened a little bit, like, oh, it's our society, it's when are they, going to take responsibility? It's almost like outside of us. And the very center of this question is taking responsibility. So I'd put it back on the guys listening. What are you doing to take responsibility? What are you doing to share this message and that way of being with other people that you're inspiring to other people? Like, how many relationships or confrontations or arguments do you have where you circle back around and you go, you know what, Ryan, that's my bad. You know what? I should have provided better clarity. I should have set expectations better. My apologies. I'm going to own that. Or are we looking to point the finger and push the blame on other people, right? Like, how you show up in all these areas of life, that's how we inspire people. That's how we teach people, like, oh, that's what responsibility looks like. So I would ask all you guys, like, what the hell are you doing? We can complain all we want about our country and how it's, everyone's woke and everyone's a victim, but what are you doing? Are you taking extreme ownership? Are you being that example to everybody?
Sorry, I'm mute there. I hope so. I hope if you're listening to this, you realize that's what we've been talking about for the past 6 years now. And that's the path that you're on. But we could always be better. All of us could be better. You and me included, right? We can always go a little harder, always do a little more, always improve ourselves, and in turn influence the people who would listen and follow and gladly do it, want to do it. If they had an example, a path to run on, that could be you or not. And you can hope that they'll figure it out on their own. They won't, or it'll take them longer than necessary. So we have a lot of work to do.
Sorry for the call out. I don't know.
No, don't be sorry. We don't be sorry. That was 100% on
everyone else. Yeah.
No, there's nothing to feel bad about when you say that. That is exactly right. What are you doing about it? And what are you doing to help those under your care do about it?
Yeah.
We've said it in the past. One of the differences between a boy and a man is that a man produces more than he consumes. A boy doesn't do that. A boy consumes more than he produces just by their nature. But as a man, it's your job to produce more than you consume, which means that you have the capacity to A, take care of yourself, and B, begin to take care of other people. Not by giving them everything, but by supporting and teaching and coaching and guiding and instructing, because you're better than just being able to take care of yourself.
Cornwell Arms.
Let's take this as the last one, Kip.
Okay. Cornwell Arms, as a 25-year-old conservative father of two, should I get involved? You're in my head too much, right? Like, I just reading this and I'm immediately like, I already know. So Cornwell Arms, as a 25-year-old conservative father of two, should I get involved in my community or focus on my family? Also, what can I do to keep my kids from being corrupted by the mainstream?
I wouldn't get involved with your community. I would just let everything around you deteriorate and hope that your family is inoculated against it. Yeah, man, of course. You have a responsibility. Of course it's both, but you have a responsibility to actually create a better environment for you and your family. And the second part of your question is, what do I do to help that my kids won't be corrupted or whatever? Number one, teach them solid foundational principles. Yes. And two, make sure the environments that you're in aren't going to corrupt them. So if you send them to public school, know that what they're learning is largely out of your hands, for better or worse. That's not an indictment at this point against the public schooling system, although it could be, and I would be happy to do that. I'm just saying that they're going to be learning things that are outside of your control. You have to be okay with that or not okay with that. Right. Yeah. If they're hanging out with a bunch of losers, then, they're going to be corrupted. If you're poor, and people aren't going to like what I say here. If you're poor and you live in a poor area, it's going to be more likely that they're going to be corrupted because they're not learning what they need to learn to be valuable and produce value in the world. That's why go to church, learn to build wealth, put yourself in a better environment, look for better opportunities in schooling, work in a different place, build a new company. When you're talking about getting involved with your community, go coach a little league team. And then everybody who little Tommy's hanging out with because they're on your team. And you're teaching those children, those boys and girls, the same lessons that you want to teach your boys and girls. And they're going to learn from that. And by the way, you might actually be the only male figure in those people's lives, those kids' lives. Because I've been in that situation. I've coached. I've done a lot of coaching with baseball, football, a little bit of basketball here and there. And I was the only present male figure in some of those kids' lives. And so I saw them. I saw the way those young boys looked at me. I saw it. I could see it because they had nobody else to turn to. And so I was it. And then I knew everybody who my kids were hanging out with and what kids they should hang out with, what kids they shouldn't hang out with, get involved in other aspects and elements of the community, getting to know my neighbors. Yes, you need to be involved in your community. Now, you're not going to be able to probably sit, maybe you can, I shouldn't say that, but sit on, the school board or the building commission. I don't know how hard that's going to be for you as a young man with kids and a wife. I don't know your schedule. If you have the capacity, then I would consider it. If you don't, there's other ways to get involved that don't require all of that time and attention. And you can work into some of those things.
Totally. I have the perfect example for Cornwell here. So the other day was Mother's Day, this past weekend. And my wife got a Mother's Day card from one of the neighbors. And it said, Happy Mother's Day. You are the heart and soul of this neighborhood.
Awesome.
So, and trust me, I already knew this before I saw the card, but like my neighborhood feels like they're a neighborhood because of my wife.
That's amazing.
That's how well they feel connected to each other. That's how much they know neighbors care. There's not a single person within a radius of our home that my wife does not know. And it's not because the neighbor came over and welcomed us and went out of their way. No, it's because my wife went out of her way to go talk to them, to go introduce them. My girls take cookies to people on a regular basis, constantly. We're aware that our neighbor, George, recently passed away and his wife's alone. Guess who's in our family prayers every night? His wife, right? Like, that's community. But far too often we wait till oh, well, you know what? I don't really know my neighbors. They're standoffish. What are you doing?
Right. You're the one that's that.
Yeah. Have you invited them over? Have you gone out of your way to get to know them? I think our ability to leave a lasting impact in those around us is so far greater than we realize. And everyone's sitting back waiting for other people to take that action because they don't realize their ability to create a lasting positive impact. And it's huge. I think it's huge.
It is. That's pretty cool that she got that letter or that card. She must have been really touched by that. That's amazing.
It's spot on too.
Yeah,
it totally is.
So get involved, guys, get involved. Yeah. Lead your families well, lead your wife well. We talked about that. Lead yourself well. We talked about that. And then start turning it outwards. Produce more than you consume. And then as you build up your capacity, Order Man's a good example of that. When we started, we could reach a certain amount of people because of our limited influence and our ability to reach and our ability to use the tools that are at our disposal. And here we are 6 years into this thing, reaching significantly more than we did when we started because we developed and built that capacity to do it. the capacity to handle it. We learned how to use and leverage technology better. We learned how to articulate and share a message that resonated with more people or was more shareable. So then other people wanted to get involved and wanted to share and wanted to wear like the merchandise that, you know, both you and I have on right now and other people.
It represents something. Yeah.
Right. It means something. I have guys who will send me pictures. One guy just sent me one. He's like, hey, I just saw this in San Diego. And he took a picture of a guy's vehicle because it had the Order a Man decal on the back of his window. And so we've learned to produce more than we consume. And isn't that an amazing thing that other people are so heavily engaged with what we're doing that I didn't ask him to take a picture of that and send it to me, but he's excited about it, which means that the message is working and what we're doing is resonating with people and they're excited about it. And that's what makes us men, is that our influence goes much further than even our own just little physical proximity. That's very, very cool. And what I think a lot of us we should all be striving to do more of that in our own way. It doesn't have to be this way, but in our own way, we should all be striving to do that.
Totally. And if you want to get on the court in our way on what we do within the Iron Council and within the Order of Man movement, we mentioned it earlier, we have the battle plan. And the battle plan is really kind of our tactical approach to accomplishing things, right, that are critical to us. And we have a couple resources I mentioned earlier, but this is the call to action today. If you're not working a battle plan now, get your hands on one. The easiest item is go to orderman.com/battle ready. That is a 30-day program to get signed up. It's free. Get on the path, see what we're doing in the Iron Council, and join us by getting your battle plan together. For you technical guys or guys that need an automated system, you really have two ways to execute against that battle plan. That is the 12-week battle planner app. That's 12weekbattleplanner.com to learn more or to download the app, or you can find it in the Apple Play Store or Google Play Store, Apple Store, or whatever that's called on the Mac. I don't know. I don't care about you guys. So we don't want to help you, Mac users. And yeah, so
you don't need to, because we know exactly where to go. So they don't need any help.
and then your third option is the paper route, right? And so you can get that battle planner, like a physical version of the battle planner at the store.orderman.com.
Perfect. Love it. Guys, get in the battle, use that stuff. It's there for your use and your benefit. So use it, share what we're doing here. It's very important. So just take a screenshot, post it on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. There's a bunch of other ones that people tell me every week to get involved with. And every week I say, no,
Ryan's holding out for the new Trump app. He's going to hold out for that.
I don't know. Did he come out with it? It was some sort of web.
I heard there's
it's some sort of like web thing. I don't know. I haven't even looked. Some sort of web thing where you basically tweets or quotes or something from Trump or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but
I thought it was social media.
I was like, wait, is
platform.
That it? Maybe it's not. I don't know.
All right.
Who knows? We'll see. There'll always be something new and exciting to talk about. But guys, we appreciate you. Great questions today. Keep them coming. Keep them rolling. We'll be back tomorrow. Nope, not tomorrow. We'll be back Friday for our Friday field notes. But until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.